Minister, I want to start with you because we are facing the reality on the ground. When the Russia-Ukraine war hit, your priorities shifted overnight from decarbonization to survival, to keep the lights on. You also sit on the JADAR project, one of Europe's largest lithium deposits. My question is on power. Does holding these critical minerals and sitting at this geopolitical crossroad make Serbia a new energy power broker in Europe?
Well, first of all, hello, and it's a pleasure to be here with the esteemed guests. I would like to share a couple of thoughts with you, as you say, who is today responsible or benefiting from the hunger for energy. I think that in the future, we will see, of course, more and more the demand for energy. The question is, how to make it sustainable and how to make sure that actually the societies take benefit of it, and how to at the same time preserve the climate and make sure that we have enough of it. And it's not only about energy, it's also about critical materials and critical raw minerals that we will need more and more, and from that point of view, we need to strengthen the value chains and make sure that the distribution is as equal as possible. Because today, what we are realizing is that it's not evenly spread, the critical minerals, and from that point of view, any disruption in value chain can actually create an issue for the country that needs them the most. And this is why, with the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, we have seen disruption of energy sources. We have seen the whole European continent having the need to shift. It's not easy, it takes time. It's from overnight, we have seen prices of electricity increase 3, 4, 5 times. We have seen prices of gas increase heavily. This has contributed to the economic growth in Europe to decline sharply. Of course, issues on one side provide opportunities somewhere else. And from that point of view, we have witnessed some strengthening of economic growth in the US due to the fact that it created an opportunity, first and foremost, for LNG. Luckily, the prices of oil remain stable, more or less, with a couple of, let's say, over the 4 years, sparks. But overall, I would say that from that point of view, it remains stable. For Serbia, as a country that has no access to sea, which is located at the Southeast Europe, first of all, there are several important aspects. One is the need for decarbonization. The other one is the need on the European path to align with European policies, but also to use its own opportunities. One of the opportunities, certainly, the Jadar Basin, which is one of Europe's largest reserves of lithium, which amount to 158 million tons, the verified reserves, which could contribute to some 56 to 57,000 tons of lithium carbonate production on a yearly basis. And out of that, we can produce roughly 1 million electric cars. Now, it's of course, making the exploration and then exploitation as well as the production sustainable, making sure that all environmental standards are respected is a challenge, especially at the European continent that doesn't, that has, I would say, said goodbye to mining several decades ago to a large extent. And now it's the awareness is rising that without mining, without critical raw minerals, we cannot achieve the goals of first of all, decarbonization, but also the more renewable energy sources on our grid, new technologies, more power sources for data centers and artificial intelligence. So from that point of view, we need to make sure that what we do for the production of lithium carbonate is, first of all, sustainable. And this is what we have trying to make sure throughout the processes, a regulatory framework to make sure that actually we can reach that goal. And we are working towards that achievement with some aim in the next 4 years to take advantage of those reserves. Serbia is very rich also in copper. For the time being, we are the fourth largest producer in Europe.
Minister, I'll get back on the critical mineral in the second question, but I want to ask Mr. Director General first. So in the earlier panel today, we were talking about, Dr. Richard has said that we are no longer in energy transition, but energy addition. He believes that the 2020 agenda of transitioning to renewable energy went too fast. We weren't ready. There wasn't enough power grids. We didn't have enough infrastructure. And now we face a reality, whether it's the Ukraine-Russia war or whether it's the data centers on artificial intelligence needing peak electricity. Do you agree? Do you think in 2020 we were still not ready?
Not easy question. First of all, we have to try to understand what are the real forces that are changing our energy system, the way it operates, and how the system sustains the economy. That at the end will make the difference. So what we can see is that the electrification of the energy system is happening. You have also, from previous panel, you have heard some numbers. So electrification is the first trend. The second, as you have said, there is this artificial intelligence that is coming. Some is focusing on the fact that this will raise the demand of energy, but not many has concentrated also focus on how much energy we will save because of artificial intelligence. Because artificial intelligence means will have an impact on industrial processes, will have an impact on the manufacturing. So we are moving also there in a more digitalized way to produce and operate, for example, the networks and grids. So honestly, we cannot say today what will be the net impact of using artificial intelligence. So immediately you come to us if you use our mobile and make research with artificial intelligence, it will need 10 times the energy with Google. But at the same time, artificial intelligence will introduce economies in many parts of our
But Minister, just to follow up on that, don't you think the IEA, who were very conservative when it came to fossil fuels, saying it will be phased out in 2030, wasn't it a bit scary from where you stand that the peak demand will be at 2050 now?
You know, that's, I think that we have to say it differently. I think no one except the IEA will say that we are going to peak demand so shortly, but it's possibly coming with a political understanding of the reality. What we are assisting now, in my point of view, that is a little bit that may raise more concern, is the fact that the triple of renewable energy capacity that was agreed in the COP28, in some way we are getting closer to this. We are not yet there, but we are getting closer. This year we are going to install, again, another record of renewable capacity, 700 gigawatts. That is enormous in some way. I always compare this, say that we are installing in 1 year of renewable capacity what we have installed in 70 years of nuclear, just to give you the idea, the sense of what's happening on this aspect. But naturally, we have not gained enough on energy efficiency. Mm-hmm. So this means that also if you get the 11.2 terawatts, at 2030 we will be not here to be in line with the 1.5 pathway. So the first thing is that we have to redesign the trajectory if we want seriously be in line with the achievement of the Paris Agreement goal. There is one aspect that concerning your first question that I wish also to touch, and is that one other trend is the decentralization of the energy system. So we are moving inevitably from a centralized energy system based on fossil fuel on a decentralized system that will be based on renewable energy, with the complement of the sustainable use of biomass and hydrogen, mainly green hydrogen. So this is happening. And this will be consequences also on the aspect that we are supposed to cover in this panel, so where the power will be. Mm-hmm. And I made this point also in our General Assembly. I made it yesterday in Riyadh. So I'm convinced that the economy of the future, the competitiveness of the economy of the future will be determined largely by the capacity to move electrons and molecules at the lowest cost possible in the most effective way. And this is possible and is happening only with renewables. So if you want to understand where the power will be, at least the economic power, we have to look at the country that have been invested and looking at the renewables for their future system.
I'll get back to that in a bit, but also, Bob, I want to ask you, you sit on the intersection between the private sector and governments. We're seeing tech giants build solar plants, nuclear plants. Do you think the power is shifting towards the private sector?
Yeah, I think right now this is a fascinating question. And if one reads the news, you see every week probably multiple projects being announced, massive projects in different parts of the world. So, right now, it is a race at some level, right? Trying to build compute capabilities with energy resources, with mineral resources behind it faster than others, either a national level race or even within national environments. So the speed is really probably unlike what we've seen before, but it's not just the speed and the urgency with which operators are acting, it's also the combination of the energy intensity of a data center and the capital intensity that goes into it. So you have, I think, a lot of forces which are really bringing private players to circumvent the system or to work around the system, to operate behind the meter, as we say. You have asset managers who have the capital to do things and make as an investment. You have certainly the hyperscalers who are probably the ones really, driving the race, right, to build the center, to be able to compete and win and take market share. But you also have the semiconductor manufacturers, right, all the chip manufacturers who seemingly are gaining from all of it and even funding it as well. So it's really a dynamic environment right now where you see it all coming together. I think both the speakers, though, talked about elements which kind of bring it back a little bit to the public sector, right? Regulatory environments are critical to be able to operate. One cannot operate independently, although it seems like that at times, but you do need to connect to the grid for resilience, for assurance in different ways. Supporting ecosystems are critical as well. The infrastructure matters. So a lot of this still is within the realm of the public sector in order to make it work effectively.
Minister, so going back to your earlier point on critical minerals, so as you said, Serbia has a big amount of lithium. Do you think the power, or if we go back to the title of the session, who will hold the power in the next energy transition? Do you think critical minerals or countries who have critical minerals will hold the power, given everything we're seeing, the China-US critical war minerals?
Well, it's not who holds a resource that necessarily benefits out of it. We have numerous countries in the world that are extremely rich in something, but if that resource is not well managed, then it doesn't bring any benefit. And what we have seen with this country, the UAE, They are naturally rich in certain resources, and they knew very well how to manage it, exploit it, and make best out of it. And then, based on that potential, grow even further, going into renewable energy, nuclear energy, besides the fact that they potentially don't need it. But it brings new growth, it brings new opportunities.
And diversification if any shocks happen.
And it brings other benefits. It makes you also credible on the international market. And this means good vision, good management, good perspective of a leadership. So it's not what you have, it's what you have and how you manage it and what kind of leadership do you have. So for Serbia, certainly the potential is there when we are talking about critical raw minerals. And as I said, we have one of the best exploited reserves and best researched project in Europe that would be, for the benefit of Serbia, it would be actually the creation of the value chain that we need to make. So not only the raw material, but also then what that raw material serves ultimately to being for the factory of batteries or the electric vehicles production ultimately. What we have moved with is actually the factory of batteries, the LFP batteries, so that we can actually make sure that we are creating already the value chain. So this is already happening, that investment. And as I said, within the next 4 years, we plan to move also further with the project Jadar and actually to get into the production of lithium carbonate, which would then fuel ultimately to the production of electric vehicles. We already started discussion with several manufacturers from automotive industry, very strong leaders in the sector that would be interested in opening such factories. Some are already there. We already have production, actually expanding those and making sure that we can make the most out of it. So yes, who will hold the power? Certainly those countries who have the resources, but also depending on what kind of alliances those countries make, with whom. Well, for Serbia, obviously, we have signed a cooperation agreement with the European Union in that respect, because we are in the European continent, and of course, EU is our strongest trade partner. But also, we have agreements with the US for the cooperation on critical raw minerals, with China as well. So I believe good management of domestic resources together with strong alliances and making sure that the whole value chain is created in the country of origin certainly provides a good base of holding the keys to energy independence, but also to the prospectus economic growth. Without, I would say, new technologies and artificial intelligence, as well as creating base for making sure that you can grow those sectors in your country, it will be very difficult to prosper. We have started in 2021 with the supercomputers. Now we have received the second one, which is 7 times stronger. It will be installed in 2026, and we have agreed the purchase of another one with France. So this is part of strategy for 2030, which relates to actually artificial intelligence prospects and development in our country. I think we can learn from the best. Certainly, when it comes to diversification of energy, UAE is also a very good example with introducing nuclear energy in its system. And it took this country 13 years in total, which I would say it's a record time, from developing the nuclear program to actually making sure to have nuclear power plants, conventional, which is even more demanding to construct and to operate, and they've done it successfully, so it's possible. I think creating those also kind of alliances in terms of knowledge transfer is very important, and we will certainly go that road in order to decarbonize our sector, which is primarily coal-based still for the base load, in order to gradually introduce nuclear energy, and certainly be inspired by UAE in the way they've done it, and we will continue that cooperation for transfer of knowledge.
Thank you. Mr. Director General, do you agree? Do you think this part of the region, specifically the UAE, has played a leading role when it came to balancing towards the energy transition?
I think that it's a matter of fact that the UAE, Saudi Arabia, the other countries in the Gulf are moving to diversify their own system. Naturally, always something that I try to send as a message. Every time they have the possibility, I think naturally we are not, let's say, criticizing anyone that is going for nuclear. If they want to pay the energy 3.5, 7 times more than go for renewables, they can do it. But here we have learned that solar is costs 1.5 cents. In Saudi today, they say that wind and solar is 1.1 cent per kilowatt. You know what does it mean? If you want to compete with this country using nuclear energy, that you are losing. So one thing that you may have a part in your system because of a security system, because of prestige, and also because sometimes military nuclear needs a little bit of nuclear, say, in the energy system. But out of this, there is no competition. There is no competition. Economically, there is no competition. If the market installing 92% of power capacity with renewables, there must be a reason. We cannot argue that is happening. So again, the economy of the future will win in competitiveness if they move electrons and molecules at the lowest cost possible. This is my fact.
Bob, we're seeing the rise of electrostate rather than petrostates. So do you also believe this region will play a big role in answering the question, who will hold the power when it comes to the energy transition?
We can talk about electrostates. It's probably important also to talk about compute states, because certainly power is a big part of it, but it is much, much more than that. And the economies of the future clearly will be more AI-driven, technology-enabled, and it comes back to some of those broader conditions. But certainly creating efficient electricity generation is going to be a big factor. It's also important to say, and at Kearney we believe that there's opportunities for many. If you talk about data sovereignty, and certainly the way it's evolving, it won't be one single center in the world that will dominate data centers. There'll be many data centers around the world, many different pockets of innovation around AI happening. I think that's what we also see developing into the future. So that means that I think every region, every country should be thinking just the way we're talking about here. What are its advantages? What are the opportunities? How important are different energy sources in that mix overall on the way towards creating greater compute capability into the future? Again, I would return to some of the themes of it's not just about the energy source itself, but it is certainly the access to capital. Mm-hmm. It is the regulatory framework and all the supporting ecosystems that will go and create what could create greater competitive advantage. And that's where I think the concepts of a compute state and electrostate come back. Fundamentally, it is about competitive advantage, whether that be a relative competitive advantage on a regional stage or in a global environment as well.
Bob, Sir Director General, Minister, thank you so much for your time today.